Phone's on mute, please.
Phone's on mute, phone's on mute. Now we're going live. All right, here we go. See how the camera looking. All right, not too bad, not too shabby. We still got them blurs. We'll get through it together though. Shalom Israel, Yahbashim Yahshua to the brothers, Yahweh Shemar Latam, Bashim Yahshua to the sisters. We're at ISUPk, the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, established in 1969, 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We are led by Commander General Yohana. We are not affiliated with any other organization or self-identifying, pronoun that they need to be applied. We're not them. ISUPk Milwaukee, Friday, LASHAWAN QADASH, the Hebrew language class. So we're going to be going over briefly, starting to ramp up for the Feast of Dedication, otherwise known as Hachaanakah. Hachaanakah. It's not the same thing that that you're gonna see like them people with them little tiny little hats on the top of their head and crazy sideburns. It's not them. We are not Israeli. The people that are currently occupying our native homeland in the land of Israel is not the authentic inhabitants. They're not indigenous to that area. That was our spot first. Just they're there now. So the problems that are going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians, that's a problem for them. That if you're so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, you shouldn't be overly concerned with. Because while we were going through our plights, internationally, none of them, and I mean none of them, raised a pinky in efforts to us. They didn't care. They did nothing. They actually contributed to our plight. Your insurance companies, your stocks and bonds, shipping companies, storage companies. Those are products of the companies that started with the slave trade. That was made prosperous by us. They weren't getting rich off of cabbage and tea and rice. Like, it didn't start because of goods and services and things like that. It started off with slavery. That's how that whole market opened up. And you're going to hear different narratives about how, like Black Friday, for example, since it's Friday, right after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. You're going to hear the narrative about how it was the businesses' efforts to push themselves back into the black, because if they, like, normally during the year, they would be in the red. If they were in negative, what's the word I'm looking for? Damn, Salakia. It escapes me. If there wasn't any, there were no gains. If there were no gains and they were in the red, they would be, in the negative. So the black was meant to put them back into the positive. It's like, I forget the term. It's like that threw me off. So they're going to say that Black Friday is attributed to just the goods, like the marketing system, trying to level out and get back into the positive of like the profit sharing, things like that, for the market, so that they're back in the good, making a profit versus losing a profit. That's what they would say was like the black margin of it versus the red. So if they were in the red, they were negative. If they were in the black, they were in the positive. So then they would say, Black Friday. And then again, revolving around those holiday dates and times, it was a quick way for them to make a buck. That's the narrative that you're going to hear for the modern day explanation of it. If you were to go back, because prior to them saying this about the current market system that's in place, there was a different market system that was in place, doing the same thing, focused on the same thing.
Right.
That happened to be the slave trade.
Right.
And their harvest, the colonizers' harvest. So with their harvest right before winter, times get tough. Winter weather is changing. You need hands on deck to harvest cultivate the land and harvest the crops. You need labor for that, but that's expensive. It's expensive to do that shit by yourself. You and your family. You don't want to see your sons out there, toiling day and night. You'd rather see somebody else's sons out there. And that somebody else just so happened to be blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians.
Right.
So during that harvest season, when they were starting to fall behind on productivity, the game plan was bringing in slaves for cheap, selling them on the auction block for cheap, right before that final harvest. That was Black Friday. That was Black Friday. Selling niggas and spicks and savages for cheap.
Right.
That's the origin story of Black Friday. So now they try to carry that same kind of sentiment over in Walmart, your Fortune 500 company, to today. To again just try to explain away just the need for them to make a profit. Selling a whole bunch of stuff for cheap. They get it for like $5, right? They're selling it for $500. They buying it for like $20. It only costs $5 to make. So everybody's making a profit there. They're just discounting the prices just to flip it through real quick, cycle it through, so that they can make their money off of their investment.
Right.
We were their initial investment.
Right.
Again, your shipping companies, insurance companies, they are either subsidies or direct descendants of those shipping and insurance companies and storage companies that were established during the slave trade that exists today. And that's why that market is so cutthroat and bloodthirsty and just hungry. That's why you're getting them spam calls 24/7.
Right.
They trying to get your business. They're just trying to hustle that away. Their records go back. That's why, the more that we know about the history of America, our oppressors' history, the more that we can have a better understanding, a clear understanding, a more confident understanding on the stance that we take against their system.
That's right.
So when they see us out here like the UPK talking trash about Christmas and birthdays and New Year's and Thanksgiving, when you look at the history of birthdays and Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving and the etc., you'll finally kind of understand what we're talking about.
Damn
right. They got blood on their hands for that. Birthdays has a blood history on its hands. You actually have to research that. The narrative changes, but you're still supporting that same agenda. Because at the end of the day, you're pouring all your money into their pockets. Because you got to think, just because it's your birthday, how many other people got the same birthday? You're not the only one that was born on blah, 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 19 blah, 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 2000 blah, blah, blah. You're not the only one that was born on that day and that month. Even at that time, even at that hospital. It ain't nothing special to you. It's just the day that you were born. The way that the other people had taken things, the worship behind it, the idolatry behind it, the servitude, the expectations of gratitude and thanks, and again servitude that you're expected to uphold to that person just because that's their name day, that's their revolution around the sun. That don't mean shit in real life, but that's what they carry. And now we end up following suit to that. And how many problems do we have on these holidays? On your birthdays, on Christmases, on New Year's, on Halloweens, on Thanksgivings. Internally, communitively, how many problems do we have amongst each other? For holidays that ain't got nothing to do with us as a people. It's not part of our culture. And we're feeding, it's not even our oppressors' culture. It's things that they made up. It's things that they made up for themselves based off of pagan customs.
That's right.
Like it ain't even them. But we're funding their agenda. So imagine if we had, and we were just talking about this earlier, imagine if for one day in any city that we're in, so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, if we did not go to Walmart for one day, if we did not go to their main grocery stores, whatever that might be, depending on your region. Over here, we got like Pick and Saves, and their main supplier is like Roundy's and Kroger, as far as the products go. Inside of those Walmarts and Pick and Saves, if we did not go to those stores for one day, imagine how detrimental that would be to their system. So now, that's just on a daily basis. Going for your normal goods that you would need just to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For birthdays, for Thanksgivings, for Christmas, for New Year's, we go there extra. We buy even more. Imagine, just for a second. All right, so what do we got coming up next? Christmas is the main other thing coming up next. Imagine Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians not celebrating a custom that don't belong to us in the first place, that celebrates our oppressors' victories over us. Imagine if we did not go to Walmart, go to them grocery stores, go to the malls, go to their shopping centers, just for that one day, how much money they would lose and how hard that would hit their economic system if we just kept that money, within ourselves and just don't celebrate that. It's a pagan holiday to begin with. It wouldn't do us any harm to not celebrate Christmas the same way it wouldn't do us any harm to not smoke crack cocaine.
Right.
There's no medical detriment that would be caused by you not smoking Newport Hundreds. If you didn't do that, you'd be straight. If we don't celebrate Christmas, we still be straight too. Ain't no harm gonna come to us. Just our people, our children, our women and our children especially are just so galvanized towards that glitter and glamour and the gifts.
That's right.
The gifts.
Right.
We turn into just want, versus just focusing on the objective, survival in captivity, which is like how we really have to look at this. And we ain't got to be all downtrodden about this shit and, walking around moping about. Live your life.
That's right.
And be successful and be happy and be positive and,
damn right.
and kick it with your community, man. Go out to the club. Go out to the club. Go out to a car show. Go out to the art museum. Go out to the libraries. You know what I'm saying? It's be social. Kick it with your people. You ain't gotta be all like all mopey about the shit. Just be conscious, be understanding that we ain't living under our rulership. We're living under theirs. And the problems that we're experiencing right now is a product of their involvement in our life and our distancing from our culture. So that's why we have these classes.
That's
Friday,
right.
LASHAWAN QADASH.
Damn right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Hachaanakah. We're going to bring out the scriptures. We're going to get more into Hachaanakah, the Feast of Dedication. But we're going to also do a quick recap on the alphabet. So we're going to run through it in the Hebrew, in the Assyrian, in the English, just for the phonetics. But we're going to run into the Hachaanakah real quick that I want to bring out first in Maccabees. If you got that ready, let them know where you're at. And
Khan,
we'll run it off.
one Khan. It's the book of Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 49.
So this is in the Apocrypha. It's First Maccabees. Verse 4, starting at what, 52, you said?
You said 49 out of 1.
49, all right, let's start there.
Khan out of 1 Khan. Chapter 4, verse 49. They made also a new holy vessel unto the temple. They brought the candlesticks and also an altar of a burnt offerings.
It's like I'm trying to look this up too for the... So we can write this out as we go. But again, they're going to be talking about the candlesticks. So now back in the day too, we did not just use only candlesticks. We had oil lamps that would burn continuously in the temple. Which again, they were trying to get back to our culture to provide for ourselves these items. You know, like we make our scrolls. We gotta, you know, we'll get cups, we'll get censers, we'll get you know, offering plates and things like that. We'll get the shapar, the canteens,
The incense.
For the incense,
Frankincense and myrrh.
The coals. We'll get the what's the word for these?
We got the wine.
I'm trying to think of the name for that thing. The canister, the something or other. Ister for the wines, for the oils, for the anointing oils. It's, you know, this is part of our culture from way back when that still applies today, and we can prove that by the laws that are given in the scriptures, the effectiveness that it would have today. And if we just follow this, like nobody wants to follow, because you're gonna have to stop doing something. That's normally the number one reason why people don't want to rock with this. You're going to have to stop doing stuff that you would otherwise just continue to do. You can't do that here. You can't do that when you're trying to follow the Most High laws that was given to Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. You can do that in the Christian church, though. The Catholic Church, you can do that in Islam. You can do all that over there with Buddhism and Hinduism. You can be an agnostic or an atheist or the people that just look for pleasure. Hedonism. You can do that all over there. You can't do that here. And people don't want to stop smoking weed. People don't want to stop smoking crack. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Crackheads don't want to be crackheads. They don't. They have a vague memory of what their life was like prior to crack cocaine. And then they see what their life is like afterwards, in the middle of it. And they would rather go back. If they had that option to go back in time to not be a crackhead, they would rather go back. No matter how bad life might seem to be. They would rather be a sober individual going through those trials and tribulations than being a crackhead and a junkie going through them trials and tribulations.
That's right.
Same thing with heroin addicts.
Damn right.
Same thing with alcoholics.
Yeah.
Same thing with any type of addictive behavior that they inhabit and carry on. Whether it's gambling, even work, even slavery. You're going to spend all your time at work and neglect your family. And if they were to turn back the clock, if they were to look at how it's affected the people that they love, that they swear like they're only doing it because they love them, so they're at the job 24/7, but missing everything else at home. that can be damaging to the family structure.
Right.
They would rather go back and not be a workaholic and spend more of that quality time with their family. Drug addicts and gang members, like people that are, in that lifestyle, it's not something that they just woke up and chose to do. It's the environment around them that they were exposed to that leads them down that path. So without that proper guidance, that there's that influence there that can catch their eye, that glitter and glamour, the prestige, the renown, the reputation, the acknowledgement, the so-called respect, and fear and love behind it, that draws their attention to do something completely different. That's the world that we live in. If we were to go back to our culture, again, our culture, which is contained in these records, in this Bible, it would divert that path. It would keep a protection over us.
Facts.
It would keep us down. It would keep us down a guided path with brothers and sisters that are in sincerity, are looking out for you, that want to teach you right versus wrong. And again, part of that starts with breaking down the scriptures. So I mean, we can. Everybody knows that cigarette smokers. Everybody knows that that's wrong. Everybody knows that it's unhealthy. It's a habit. It's habit forming and it's addictive. So people are just used to it. They accept it. They just kind of give up to it. Everybody knows though. Every adult, I can say every adult, because like I'd seen some of them that had offered children cigarettes. Children, adults offering children cigarettes. But for the most part, adults acknowledge that's not good for you.
It's like, if I may, I don't want in Mexico. It's like, if I may, in Mexico, it's normal to ask your children to go get your cigarettes for you.
Right.
So they'll pay the children
to the corner store to go get them. Yep. Okay. And liquor too. And it's, the expectations of guidance were, I don't want to say looser. No, that'd be the wrong way to put it. It would have been more traditional a little while ago. It was more expected that parents and older siblings and relatives had guided the youth up properly so that they wouldn't fall into the same snares. But nowadays when you look at it, it's that same false kind of expectation. Like, how would I say? All right, so back then, like, it was applied. The community applied it too. The shop owners applied it too. For a time at least. But now, like, them same shop owners, I mean, they'll let your kids smoke them same cigarettes that you was getting from mom and dad. Again, like what I was just saying, they sending their kids to college. They sending their kids to medical school off of us getting cancer from them blunts and them cigarettes. And now CBDs and vapes. They sending their babies to Ivy League institutions off of us spending the last dollars just to get high and just for them cigarettes. And they sending their kids to Ivy League schools for the law school off of our criminality. They go back home to a completely different neighborhood. They don't live like in the shop, in the apartments upstairs, or just right around the corner. They go back to the suburbs 9 out of 10 times. They don't live in that neighborhood like that. And they send their babies they living good off of us killing each other and killing ourselves.
Right.
And that's actually kind of an interesting point, because During the time of the Maccabees, when Hachaanakah was established, it was a similar effect. The leadership at that time, them Roman or Greco-Roman, that Greco-Roman Empire that was in leadership at that time, trying to push their culture on our people to our detriment. And if we didn't follow suit, they put us to death. They would unalive us, since we can't say certain things. Looking good. They would unalive us. So now our people, in response, some of us said, hell no. Some of us said, hell no, we ain't going down that same road, man. It's like we're trying to pull up. Trying to pull up the Maccabees to see what it's gonna be written in the Hebrew. They'll try to force us to conform to their way of life. And you had brothers and sisters and families that stood up against it, that did not partake in their way of life. And died because of it. Got put to death as a result because they would not cave in.
Right.
It's like I can't grab the Maccabees right now in the Hebrew, but something to look into. First Maccabees chapter 4. Starting at verse 49, read where you started off at.
Khan. Chapter 4. First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 49. They made also a new holy vessel unto the temple. They brought candlesticks and the altar of burnt offerings and the incense and the table. Verse 50. And upon the altar burning incense and lamps, they were upon the candlesticks. They lightened that they might give light in the temple. Verse 51. Furthermore, they set. Furthermore, they set. What was that? The loaves. The loaves upon the table. Spread out the veils, and furnished all the work, and finished all the works which they have began to make. Verse 42.
So this is them setting up in the temple. Well, not even in the temple, but because in verse 48 you're gonna see how and made up the sanctuary. So now even in verse 47, then they took the whole stone, so they had rebuilt it. Like we'd have to like go back over a lot of the Maccabee stories, like
right.
So in First Maccabees chapter 4, like the backstory, to see how it started, the pressure that got put on them, again to follow after root of our oppressors. And I was going into how they had set up the altar and rebuilt laid upon the stones and the mountain of the temple in a convenient place. In verse 46, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. So they were getting things done in preparation to again keep to their culture, because what happened here, the reason why we got Hachaanakah, the Feast of Dedication, is because some brothers that didn't want to battle. Again, we were in oppression. We were under captivity. Some brothers didn't want to battle. You had some other brothers that said, no, you're not going to infringe on us. You're not going to stop us. You're not going to just impose your will on us anymore without some pushback. You had some brothers that fell back. You had other brothers that pushed forward. And that Feast of Dedication was a victory of Israel over our oppressors. Slack it. Continue.
Verse 52. Now on the 5th and the 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caselu, in the 148th year, the rose began. Rose up betimes in the morning. Verse 53. And the offering sacrifices according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings.
So again, upon the new altar of burnt offerings, what they had made. So again, the temple had been destroyed and tried to be rebuilt. And if you look at different books and different records, like it talks about the restoration of our temples. But we're talking about like a community here who was more more closely affected by the oppression. Like if their kingdom was here, like we were in close relation to them, like we were right next door. So they had, it's like that may be an exaggeration of it too, but like they had a close rulership over us. And again, because of their dominance in the nations that we were around, it was they already had things established and conquered. So it was a rough thing for us to combat without having a military and nation to defend us of our own, the same way that we are kind of in conditions now. So like you got Mexico that's mainly run by like really like in their leadership, like that's Spaniards. So they don't have any allegiance or like roots to the indigenous of Mexico. So and same thing with South America. You've got the Portuguese, even the Dutch in the Caribbean islands. You've got other nations who've actually got their foothold in hooks dug in to the political to the political branches and structure of those areas, so that it's foreigners that are controlling those native lands, for the people. So like Native Mexicans, they ain't got a say over that. Mexicans ain't got a say over what happens in Mexico. You got heathen nations that got that voice. Similar in South America, similar in the Caribbean islands. Same thing in Canada. You got reservations. You got Native Indian reservations in Canada and that they have no control over. So if you were to look at the 12 tribe chart, North, Central, and South America predominantly is where you're going to find so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Not to exclude Europe, Africa, Asia, Russia. Just predominantly we're over here. So now at this time during the Maccabees, predominantly like our people were in that area in the European Middle East kind of area, that they would have that control and dominance over, and trying to force their culture on our people. It's one thing for them to have their own thing going on. It's something completely different for them to try to make our people follow suit, which is what their attempts were. So when we did not follow suit to that, they would try to put us to death because of it. And you had one family in particular that just, and like that's a crazy story. It's like I don't know if it's gonna lead up to it in these verses, but keep reading for a second here.
Hachaanakah. Verse 33. Verse 53. And the offering sacrifice according to the to which they had made. Verse 54. Look at Slakia. Yeah. Look at what time and what day the heathen and profaned it.
Yeah. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. It's the same thing that we're talking about today. Like, again, look at their actions. Look at their not just their intentions, but like they had marked a day on the calendar pretty much to try to execute this. It's like, okay?
Evening that was dedicated with songs.
Yeah, so they try to make it like sound all merry. Like, you got Christmas carols and you got Happy Birthday to You, and I don't know if there's any Thanksgiving songs necessarily, but like they try to make light of it. And everyone wants to talk like, all right, so many conspiracies about like the words that we use and how those can be subsequently spells. Damn. So there was, a couple words like, for example, that one guy, flipping another comedic weirdo, monumental. So now the last 6 letters of it, mental. So that whole word at the end of monumental is mental. So you got the definition of monument and then mental. And how that comes together and how that's supposed to be like a subversion of that like a concept to take precedence over your mind. Like mind control, pretty much. Pretty much is what they're talking about. The word knowledge. It's important to know the ledge, so that you don't fall off. The word understanding. Now most people want to overstand it. You can't understand it anymore. You got to overstand it. Otherwise, you're just going to be under, the control of everybody. If you're a competent individual, shit like that don't matter to you. Just like incense. Like we burn the frankincense and myrrh because that's the Most High's preference as far as scents go. It's not going to save your life.
Right.
It's not going to raise you from the dead. It's not gonna cleanse your spirit and your soul like a lot of Native Indians might do it like with a sage rub. It's not that.
Right.
It's certainly not gas station Kush that they're gonna sell for 99 cents. It's not that. Just again, they put so much emphasis on words and dates and times and signs of the heavens that's going to help trip you up versus just the practical application of life and human interaction that needs to be the focus. Look at the signs of what they're doing. Look at how they celebrating things, and just don't do that. Ain't nothing wrong with the moon. Ain't nothing wrong with the moon. The moon is just that. It's out there. It does its thing, and according to the Bible, it's just a lesser light to help define the seasons and navigation, things like that. That's the main purpose. That's the main functionality of it for us. Its effect on the earth is something a little bit different. It has a more physical effect on the earth. Just as far as human use of it, it's very basic. But you're gonna have people out there that their horoscopes and they're gonna tell their signs by the shit. That's when it becomes extra and unnecessary. So that's what they're doing with this. Keep going.
uh, the time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated with songs and cheerings,
Cisterns,
cisterns, herps,
harps.
harps, and cam, cambers, cam, carousels.
It's like you must screenshot what verse he had.
The end of 54.
Symbols. Symbols.
Symbols.
So now, our expressions, our practice, definitely different than everybody else's. We go off of we'd actually have to really go into the beginning of the chapter to really get the history of this. It's like I misspoke about how they had set it up. That was in reference to something else, but we take a lot of our social cues off of them. And they have the control over the high holy days and events that we are supposed to revere and celebrate. So when we finally get something of our own, of course they try to override it and claim it and give their origin story of it. And then leave us, what was that on the screen? And leave us pretty much in the dark. So leave us pretty much in the dark and just on the fall. Again, if you ask most people Christmas, where is that? They're going to tell you it's Jesus' birthday. Jesus' birthday. Ask them where that's at in the Bible, because that should be where it's recorded. They can never show you. We can show you the customs of Christmas though. Sorry, 49. We can show you the customs of Christmas and how it's inappropriate in Jeremiah. We're right around the corner from that too, so this will be one of the next events coming up. But we got the Feast of Hachaanakah coming up. You got to check out First Maccabees. If you're you'd almost have to read both First and Second Maccabees to really kind of get the before, during, and after effect of the battle that was going on internally and with our oppressor. Because once you start making negotiations with these people, you're losing out. You're sacrificing something that you don't think you could have kept without without it being destroyed anyway. You're making those negotiations because you fear losing what you got. You don't want that to be taken from you. So you make them considerations, and you kind of take a small L, thinking that you're avoiding a bigger L. But now we're talking about that small L for what? Hundreds of years, thousands of years afterwards that we've been suffering under that small L. You could have taken that big loss just for that time and just stood up to it. So again, when we go over these stories about them 7 sons and the mother, from the oldest boy down to the youngest brother, who took torture, who jumped in the ring, knowing that they were battling being boiled in a cistern, knowing that they were battling having their limbs chopped off and being castrated. They knew what they were about to face. And they still jumped in the ring to battle that in the spirit. They knew that they couldn't battle it physically. They battled it in the spirit. And that youngest brother said to his mom said, looking at him like like, son, don't be afraid, be strong. And that young man was already like, listen, man, like, I got this. I got it. You ain't got to worry about me. We good to go. Let's do it. Like, they were ready for it. Leadership today don't want to do that. Leadership today wouldn't dream of risking that because, you got kids, you got family, you got loved ones, other people that you think you're responsible for. That, I mean, if you were to really look at it black and white, you ain't done nothing for them anyway. Predominantly. You got some people out there that are legit, but it's, we're falling behind that curve because don't nobody want to lose what they got. And that's understandable. It's completely understandable. But that's also carnal. So it's going to take that, like when you hear in the UPK about how, home of the truth, we ain't affiliated with nobody. It's because we are the ones that are willing to take that step. We ain't gonna negotiate with you. If I were to get kidnapped, if I were to be kidnapped, we are not gonna negotiate for my life. You're not gonna get us like that. If you're gonna say, hey, like you better give us $1 million, or you better free all these other prisoners or war criminals in order to get this man's life back, and you're not gonna win. You're not gonna win. I'll go. I'll see you again. I'll close my eyes. We'll wake up again. We'll have this conversation at another time. You're not gonna bully us around like that. Like that's what happened with a lot of them. They got bullied around. They got punked. They got pushed around. They got manipulated. They gave in to some of them dudes. And as a result, we lost our culture. We lost our alphabet. We lost our language. Which is why we got to have these LASHAWAN QADASH classes.
That's right.
So just to go over kind of a quick recap before we start getting into some of the deeper material is, again, we're gearing up for like the prefixes, the suffixes, the pronouns, the propositions, the connections. We went over last week about the salute that we were sharing with brothers and sisters. And we're going to start building more on just like identifying it as you read it in the Torah. Because again, in the Torah, you're going to see the Assyrian, which is going to be different than the Hebrew. So we'll do both alphabets real quick. That one got away from me. So we got Abagadahawa. Abagadahawa. Za. Ka Abagadahawa Zakata. Ya. Ka. La. Ma. And again, like everybody's penmanship is gonna be a little bit different, but just to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page, like that ma though, the ma and the na, that curve kind of falls below the rest of the line. If you were to see all these kind of lined up, that level, it's gonna be a difference. The ma and the na, that curve is gonna fall below. Mana sa I pa haza. Did that too much. Za. Kwa. Ra. Sha. Tha. So that's in the Paleo Hebrew. The rest of these would pretty much be on the same line. It doesn't have that same kind of issue as when we get into the Syrian, where at the beginning or the middle, how that character would be different than from the character at the end, like ka or na, daza or I. Actually, I think I say the same. But you're gonna see the difference. The Paleo Hebrew is a lot more straightforward. The Assyrian is the one that has a lot more complications. You can blame our oppressor for that. Complicate the good thing. So now we're going to do the Assyrian, and we're going to also, like, in the smaller letters, we're going to put the Paleo on there just to show the comparison. So we got ah. Ba. Ga. Da. Ha. Wa. Za. Ka. Okay, so make sure I got these in the right order. All right, big good. All right, so Abagadaha was a kata. Kata. Ya. Ka. It's a little rough. Ka. La. Ma. No. So now these are two of the initial characters that get a lot of confusion, the ma and the na. In the beginning or the middle, at the end. There's a lot. Because also the ka if you look at the size comparison, that ka and the ma, or the na, is going to be at a different height than the rest of the characters around it. The la, for example, starts off a little bit higher, but just keeps that one same form. In the beginning of the middle, beginning of the middle, beginning of the middle, at the end of the word, it would take on this form. So one of the best ways to identify when you're reading it in the Torah is at the end of the word what it's going to be. If it's a da, it's going to be the same size as the rest of the characters, but it's going to look a lot like this. Now the same thing with the ba and the na. The main difference here is the width of it. The na is going to be a lot more narrow. The ba is going to have like the same, occupy pretty much the same space as the majority of the other words. And you're going to see those differences with the other characters, like ga, za, wa. They're thinner. They occupy a narrow space. Look at the other characters around the character that you're trying to identify and see if it's taller, shorter, if it's narrower, if it's wider. And that's going to help you identify what the character is, so you don't be as confused when you're reading through it. It's like that ba and that na, again, get confused a lot with each other. The na is going to be a lot narrower than the ba. They're going to keep that same form in the beginning and in the middle of the word, but at the end, if you see a thinner, tall character in comparison to the other ones around it, that's going to let you know if it's a ka, or a na, or a wa, or a da, or a ra. It's like right now we're at now we're here. Let me see if any of that's lost in the glare. But you know, we can pretty much see everything. And so now you can see how like both of the kas, how similar these are. So in the Assyrian dialect, it's not as pictographic as we had with the Paleo Hebrew. It's like we had to conform to, we had to make it less obvious or less just in their face of what our culture was, so that it was easier for them to accept. And it's like you know, our music, our style of dress. You know, sisters were getting kicked out of schools and expelled from schools and suspended from schools for the braids in their hair. Like we had and not to say that braids are just only Black and Hispanic and Native Indian culture, because anybody can just twist some hair up, that's fine. But we just made it pop. Yeah.
It's like I was getting in trouble. I was going to the principal's office all the time for having my hat tilt sideways. You know
For
what
a
I mean?
simple thing.
Yeah, for a simple thing. You know, I had a lot of my hats in the office because of that.
They be taking your
They
hats.
were taking my hats.
Never got them back?
Oh, I got them back.
You got them back.
Yes.
That's what's up. And it's, you know, baseball. All right, so some people want to argue. It's like, a lot of people make the argument about how things that we are dealing with and living with today, styles, music, food, certain habits, are not part of our culture. They're only looking at from the modern stance. A baseball cap was nobody's culture. Nobody like that. That's an invention. That wasn't nobody's like ancient culture. That was part of nobody's roots. A baseball cap. But when baseball caps came into play, we just made it different. We had a different effect with it. We applied it a little bit different than everybody else. And it just took on a life of its own. And it became synonymous with us. Where uptight Edomites just wearing everything straight brim, straightforward. Or crooked bent ass brim, just again, still straightforward. Even some of the farmers still might have been like, just threw with their hat on. Doesn't matter what way it was looking. But it became popularized because of us. That's why when we look at the prophecies, the curses, the blessings in the Bible, you're talking about things that that became popularized amongst our people, that became notarized amongst our people. It's not just that we were sent over here on ships, that the transatlantic slave trade occurred. Name anything more bigger than that in history. Name any oceanic slave trade bigger than the transatlantic slave trade. And then we'll shut up. Recorded in history. And people want to talk about, human beings back like 5 million years. And maybe all those records were destroyed. Okay. So show me to the minute bump. Show me the Anunnaki records of a different slave trade conducted over water from one landmass to another, bigger than the transatlantic slave trade. Just show me that. Because when we talk about the prophecies in the Bible and we bring these issues up, everybody wants to say, well, everybody was enslaved. Everybody was enslaved. Everybody. All right, so what? Show me this, though, with the Chinese. Show me that. That's what I want to see. And you've got the sub-Saharan slave trade as well. But that was still on the same landmass.
Right.
Show me how they went on ships to another landmass. And how they were enslaved by another people. Because a lot of y'all enslaved each other. That's another part of it too. Genghis Khan, enslaved anybody and everybody that he could. A lot of that was his own people. Yeah.
And it's like it. There's even some people that think that the Anunnakis are gods.
Right.
Because supposedly Anunnaki means those who fell from the sky. But if they were gods, then they must keep record of who was the ones going to captivity after captivity after captivity after captivity.
You would think so.
Yeah, you would think so. So I'm pretty sure they got records of that. The Syrians must have. Matter of fact, the Syrians do got records of the Israelites being under their captivity.
Yeah. They do.
Just like most of the other nations, they got records of their history. So most likely we were in their history, but we're just under their captivity.
And then different names, they don't want to. So again, the modern narration is the so-called white people are the Jews. When they themselves are on record dating themselves back to the Caucasus Mountains. Dating themselves back to Idumea. So who are we? Who are we in South America then? Like, nobody can answer this shit. indigenous, the Olmec, the Aztec, the Inca, no sweat. But who were they?
If I could, I mean, the Edomites want to take the credit of the Israelites and calling us aliens. I mean,
Yeah.
they're calling aliens today
Yeah.
because we crossed that border.
And we got aliens in our records. You know, in the Bible today, you'll see the English word
alien and extraterrestrial,
right.
Terrestrial and extraterrestrial.
But like you'll see, you know, the Hebrew equivalent obviously is a little bit different. But you'll see how from the Hebrew and even I think in the Greek too, they make the same comparison. You'll still see that expression of that term alien. And if you look at the definition of it, it doesn't always mean, you know, something from, you know, from Mars or from outer space.
Right.
We use those terms for people today on Earth.
Right.
Illegal aliens? How?
They must know who we are then.
They got to. They got to. And now just because they lied to their kids and they lied to their kids and they forgot to lie to their kids and they just forgot about things in general over years. We're talking generations of forgetting, generations of inaccountability, generations of not taking the credit, generations of whitewashing and misinformation and cancel culture.
Right.
Cancel culture didn't just start, you know, with feminists getting offended about some shit.
Right.
It started a long flipping time ago. And generations of it. So now, of course, the people today don't feel that they are responsible for anything.
Con.
Now that sucks for you because your parents lied to you and they set you up for the okie doke. So, Salakia, but because you're the one in that penthouse suite on a land that's so cushioned and formed for your sensitivities, you know, that bubble's gonna get burst, good?
It's like you, sir. So do we blame our parents or do we blame the organization that they were?
It's gonna be both.
Okay,
It's gonna be both to a point. To a point. So we're first and foremost, the so-called white man is the goddamn devil that the Bible speaks.
That's right.
That's first and foremost. We're gonna hold them accountable first for their actions and for their lack of accountability.
Con.
Now, I'm also going to hold my father responsible to the point of just not being responsible, just falling into the drug epidemic. He didn't have to be a heroin addict. He didn't have to be a mobster.
Right.
But also now the life that he was exposed to in the environment that he grew up in,
yeah,
those are just the conditions.
Con.
You can live, you can die, you can be this, you can be that. You know, it comes with a cost, comes with a price. So, like, I get it. I completely understand it. The thing is, it wasn't always like that, right? It wasn't always like that. Prior to colonization, even though that we had problems amongst each other, it wasn't like that.
Right.
Crack cocaine didn't exist 300 years ago. Yeah?
So, like, if I could,
you got it?
Even during captivity, the Gadites and the Ishmaelites showed very much brotherhood to the Judites.
Very much. Very much brotherhood.
We already knew what time it was.
Very much brotherhood to the Judites. And to the Issacharites.
Right.
And to the other dispersed ites.
Concert.
That we came across. Brotherhood was prevalent. And because we could identify that plight amongst each other. We saw the same conditions, the same living conditions by that same people. Because you also had Edomite slaves and servants, but who were they enslaved by? Edomites.
Right.
They were enslaved by their own people. So it's not the same thing.
No.
Now, Chinese people, too. Now, look at that. They were in servitude and slavery as well for a time. More so indentured servants. So, did they have Asians as actual slaves? Yes, absolutely. But their movement over here, that was indentured servitude. Good?
Concert Salakia. China, you're speaking about Chinese people, but Chinese people got their own Chinatown.
They got their own
The
Chinatown,
South
right?
Side's
Yeah.
majority
Exactly.
Latinos. Why don't we don't got Latino town or Mexican town
Nah.
or Puerto Rican town or Dominican town? Why don't we don't have that? I mean, if China man can have Chinatown, why can't Mexican have Mexican town?
And then in a lot of their own Chinatowns, they got their own China police force. They got their own.
Yeah,
They
of course.
govern their own
They want to take care of
jurisdiction.
themselves.
Yeah. They're not fighting for political advantage necessarily.
Right.
They don't have to go to the town hall meetings to try to reform their community because they are in charge of their community.
Right.
We have to go through that because we have our oppressor who hates us governing us in our own community, policing us in our blocks.
Sir. And they don't even live in the community.
They don't it's like to the minimum. It's like they don't even live there.
Yeah.
And then they're not individually the ones who put the drugs there, but their predecessors did.
Con.
And now they're just in charge of stuff.
Right.
They're just on there now.
They're
just on
overseers.
The clock now. That's it.
Right.
So now their people left them with the mess that they filled out an application for without knowing the true history, accepting the narrative that was given to them. Just like Thanksgiving.
Come.
Everybody's gonna accept the current narrative of things on the select it to the minimum. On the Indian reservations, they are celebrating Thanksgiving. Native Indians are celebrating Thanksgiving because of the current narrative of how that was established and the meaning behind it. Good?
It's like, if I may too, it's almost enforced to the American society because I try to go get some groceries out of when I totally forgot because I haven't been celebrating Thanksgiving for the past 18 years. I totally forgot what yesterday was. And I'm trying to get some groceries and everything was like the streets was dead out of one.
Right.
And I'm talking about the north side of Milwaukee. Right. Like there was nobody driving. And I couldn't get groceries because the United States is forcing everybody to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Damn near forced. Like the advertisement
literally forcing
is in your face.
Yes, in your face.
24/7.
Yeah.
You can't, like, if you were on the phone, like listening to YouTube or something, at some point you're gonna come across some video promoting Thanksgiving, promoting Christmas, promoting New Year's. They're getting started on that shit early too. All the business deals, Black Friday, all the sales, all the sales for Walmart from products that are a $50 item that's getting made for 50 cents in China under illegal child labor laws that they bought for $5, and they getting 10 times the profit from it.
Concert.
And that's.
But if you come to a Black Friday, we'll cut you half price.
So they're only making that much then.
But still, it's still having us consume.
Rapid.
But yeah,
rapid. It's going to come in waves, the volume of what they're going to sell and the profit margin that they're going to make. And again, that started off with the harvest.
Right.
You needed hands to complete the harvest because we didn't have excavators and the modern machinery and equipment that we got today for farming. So those plantation owners and those farmers needed that. They needed hands on deck to get the shit done. So we were sold for cheap. We were sold for cheap labor for them to make money. And it's the same thing today. Even if they try to quantify it with their like the business markets being in the black and the negative to try to just boost it up so that they're back in the red into the positive. You still need people to buy. You still need material and products to kick out rapidly at a very cheap price that's going to give the incentive for people to buy at a very cheap price.
And you're going to get more buyers than normal because they're reducing the prices.
Exactly. And it's going to come in waves.
Yeah, it's going to come in waves.
So now, like, even if the terminology kind of changed over to that they just understand the current definition or the current examples of what Black Friday was established as. They don't know the roots of it. Just like they don't know the roots of your birthdays, celebrations, Thanksgivings, and Christmases. They don't know the roots of that. Valentine's Day is supposed to be all about love, right? It's supposed to be all about love. If people knew the bloodshed of Valentine's Day, it's crazy, guys.
And if I may too, Salakia, I mean, even the bloodshed that's being spread because of the Black Fridays. I don't know if you noticed, but these Black Fridays lines are the one. Dangerous. And how they open the stores, how the way it's dangerous. People getting stepped on, trying to come into those stores. I don't want trying to get those deals. Trampled. Trying to get the 25% off
for a TV.
For a TV.
For a blender.
For a blender.
You mean we're gonna do this to each other?
We're gonna step on Israelites, trying to get that 25% off. Because we need that TV in our living room, I don't want.
Because it's that necessary.
It's ridiculous.
It's that necessary. You got a TV on your phone, man. People like, so. Again, I'm a simple. Maybe just me. I'm a simple man.
Me too.
I'm cool with just that.
Come.
I don't need one of these. It's nice to have.
Right.
It's nice to have.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna step on my brothers because of that TV.
Not for that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sock somebody out because of that damn TV.
I want to show y'all what we're talking about too. We're not gonna unalive each other for one of these.
Right.
Not us.
Right.
Our oppressor's gonna do that to us.
Right.
And they're gonna teach us to do that to each other. But in the UPK and the Commanding General Yohana and the Most High in Christ, we ain't gonna do that.
That's
to each other.
right.
Not for this. Not for that. Not for this. Not for that. Not for one of these. I mean, this like a shield. I mean, that's a superstar right there. We ain't gonna do that to each other, man.
Saki, if I may too, I'm pretty sure they know the aftermath when these Black Fridays hit in these barrios and these ghettos. They know how South Side gets. They know how the North Side gets.
They counting on them.
They're counting on. They already expect it. The police presence are there. Other one.
Yep, they're ready and waiting. They're ready and waiting for some niggas to just do nigga shit.
Right.
They're ready and waiting for that. They counting on that shit. They counting on it. They counting on it. Right outside of the El Reyes. Right in the neighborhood that we was at. That's a prime corner. That's prime real estate for that.
Concert.
Right down the block where we got that excellent sandwich from that Puerto Rican shop, Playa Cafe.
Glorious sandwich.
Prime real estate for that criminal activity that they would promote. That they would hope to see that we do. Imagine if we didn't do that to each other, though. How much money that they would lose? How much? How much? Damn, what's the word I'm looking for?
There wouldn't be a Black Friday.
There wouldn't be no Black Fridays no more. It wouldn't. But like all the time and energy that they put into trying to set us up. I mean, they're gonna have to double up their efforts. And at this point, if they don't see,
they're gonna probably do that on Christmas Day,
yeah,
or Christmas Eve.
They'll plan more around them holidays.
Right.
Try to pinpoint.
But even then, I'm pretty sure they have Christmas Eve deals then.
Yeah.
And we're doing the same damn thing then.
Same thing. They make billions off like this time. Between Halloween
concert.
Between Halloween and Halloween and Valentine's. How much money they make?
Billions. Literally billions.
October, November, December, January.
Billions.
How much? And that's the off season, temperature wise. Once spring and summer hits, everything else opens up.
Yeah.
So now we're already back to spending money.
Concert. I mean, that pandemic didn't mean nothing when it came down to those deals. COVID-19 didn't mean nothing because of them deals. They were out there. I don't know. They're doing Christmas shopping on Black Friday.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
Yeah. Yeah. They're out there in droves. They're out there in bulk.
In bulk.
And we're gonna give all our money to them. We're gonna kick each other out of the house for them.
Concert. We're gonna unalive each other.
Unalive each other. We're gonna rob each other for them because of their concepts of holidays.
Yes.
For pagan culture.
Damn right.
Idol worship and pagan culture. We're gonna forget about LASHAWAN QADASH. We ain't gonna mess with this no more.
Right.
We're gonna rob each other instead.
Right.
For what? And
Then,
people don't really evaluate that.
50% off, I don't want.
That's it. There you go. There you go. For 50% off, you can be a fuck boy too. Salaki to the minimum. Salaki to the minimum. Salaki for the language. But yeah, that's exactly right. For it's a cheap sellout. A cheap sellout for a quick instant gratification. That doesn't last that long. You're gonna see. All right, you're gonna buy your son. You could have bought your son or your daughter that gift any day of the week, throughout the entire year. You could have done that for them. You're gonna buy them that gift. You're gonna see that smile on their face for like a day and a half, a week at tops.
Yeah.
Until they forget about that toy. Until they break that toy. Until they ruin those clothes. Until they mess up them shoes.
Big facts.
But you're gonna make a big presentation about it, about your birthday and about Thanksgiving and about Christmas and about New Year's. You're gonna make a big presentation about it, and they're gonna ruin that gift overnight, damn near. And again, what's one of the biggest gifts on any of these holidays that they promote? What's one of the biggest gifts that we give each other?
Material things.
As far as instant gratification. Because that's ultimately what we're searching out for.
Because I know we ain't giving out brotherhood or sisterhood.
We ain't.
It's all material.
It's drugs.
Drugs.
It's drugs. For my birthday, my gift was drugs. For Christmas, we gave each other drugs.
Of course.
For New Year's, we celebrated that New Year with drugs.
I don't want slack if I may. I mean, Thanksgiving, I feel like I was being around a bunch of vultures on Thanksgivings, on birthdays. And I don't want, those people that's very close to me that want to unalive themselves because of these holidays. I don't want. So I feel a certain way about Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmases, and birthdays. I don't want. At a personal level.
Because, I mean, after that turkey, you got to get high.
Of course.
You got to get high.
I couldn't get that deal.
Yeah.
I seen my homeboy that ended up marrying my wife, because he had she was coming home with the big screen TV that I couldn't get.
And Salaki tell them about me, back in the world when I was selling drugs, I was giving Black Friday deals too.
I bet.
We were doing discounts.
I had buddies outside of the people that are buying the merchandise, waiting for them. We had to spend $1 out of one. Salakia.
For what? The end result, again, for what? Because
in the same parking lot.
And it's hard for us to cope with reality.
Good night.
It's hard for us to live amongst each other and to deal with the poverty and to deal with the generational just destruction of our people. And again, we look at it as such an easy thing now. All right, so America is only I think 300 years old. The conception of America. That's really only 300 years old. Hey, that's a baby in comparison to the other established nations.
Mm-hmm.
The damage that has been done, again, by that particular group of people that don't nobody want to claim allegiance to. Okay?
Not just physically, but also mentally and spiritually damaged.
Absolutely. Like the damage that they had inflicted, it affects the way that we shop with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It affects the way that we do business and the way that we, function in social concerts, state fair, Summerfest. It affects the way that we interact with each other socially.
Big time.
And so we're not, under slavery anymore.
Right.
So we shouldn't have nothing to compare or to complain about. But when we look back at the damage that was done and how that folded over, and the way that their parents acted and had to train up the children to be non-threatening to our oppressor,
Right.
and how they ended up having to train their children, and how the men had to become less masculine so as to not be a threat.
Right.
And you can be a big bulk ass Bronco ass nigga, but if you're homosexual, okay, you're not a threat. They already broke you. They already broke your spirit, because being a homosexual is, of course, an abomination to the Most High, and that's not the way that we need to be living. That's not the way that we are instructed to, allowed to be living. Homosexuality, that is against the Most High law.
That's right.
And it makes us docile. It makes our men effeminate. It makes our women butch. Tries to reverse the roles of the hierarchy of the family system, of that social structure. And even if it's not the family, the community. The men are the vanguard. The women are that support system.
Mm-hmm.
The children is that future.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be protected. That's going to help boost up, again, each branch.
Sir.
Each branch is going to get boosted up because of them. The older that the men get that fall, old age, disease, what have you, just natural courses, Lord allow. You're going to have other men that we raised up to stand up in their place. The older sisters, as they fall behind, leaving their lessons, teaching the sisters before them, they're going to get replaced by the younger sisters. And then we're just going to keep on having more children. We're going to keep on reproducing ourselves. The way that we are today is not how we have been in the past. Even Milwaukee used to look different. And that's just that's just an acknowledgement of our time in this area of this country in these days. That's just Milwaukee. You also have to consider, this is just Wisconsin, I should say, because the reservation didn't always used to look like that too on the Menominee Res. That's just Wisconsin. We got to talk about Michigan too. We got to talk about Illinois also. We got to talk about Minnesota too. We got to talk about Indiana. We got to talk about Oklahoma. We got to talk about Texas. We got to talk about New Mexico and California. We got to talk about New York. We need to talk about Canada.
Right.
We got to talk about Mexico.
That's right.
And Puerto Rico and Cuba. And the DR and Haiti. We got to talk about the UK. It wasn't supposed to be like this. But because this is what we're going through, we need that regiment to help get us through it. Some of that, certainly not all, but some of that is just getting back to our roots, man. Simple thing like LASHAWAN QADASH. Talking about our native tongue. Talking about how we used to speak, how we used to read, how we used to write. So I forgot to put this one up here too. So we left off as Sa, I, Pa, Taza, Kwa, Ra, Sha, Tha. At the beginning or in the middle. Now, here's this thing too with the Kwa. Okay, so let me use a different color for that. That level. Like all these are going to be the same until you get to here. That Kwa, when you're writing it out, that Kwa would, that N would fall below. The rest of this is going to be that same size as the rest of the characters. And you'll select it for this. Select it for this. Everything, like these are going to be the same. These are going to be the same. And just swooping down. No big deal. In the beginning or the middle of the word, it's going to be this form of the character. At the end, it's going to be this. And again, that line of symmetry is going to be right about here. So you're going to have that tail that drops below that line. And again, this is a little exaggerated. When you see it in the scripture, when you see it in like that calligraphic Assyrian script, it's not going to be as dramatic in comparison to the next character, but you're going to see how it's going to fall below that line. It's going to be taller than the rest of the characters around it. So in that preparation, while you're reading the scriptures, to identify the characters, look at the position in the word. So let's look at a couple, for example. And we actually had some of these over the last couple Sabbath services. And we had, I don't think I turned the camera on it, but we got some solid examples of words that use the same characters in the beginning and or middle and in the end, and then the difference between them. Try to pull them up real quick so I can give me 1 second. 1 second. Yeah, what you were saying was, especially heavy considering, again, the complacency of the times that we live in. Don't nobody want to fight. And we're not talking about physical altercation. We're just talking about standing up for yourselves.
Yeah? Sir. We look at it as like a financially upgrade, but it's really a downgrade with the nation. Because we're telling them it's okay to celebrate these holidays.
And that quality of life.
Because it's materialistic things.
Yeah. Oh. In exchange for it, like what are we gaining out of Christmas? What are we gaining out of Thanksgiving?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. There's no brotherhood in Christmases.
That's
it's been guilty and stingy, and it's just wickedness.
And if you don't give somebody a gift,
yeah, you're a horrible person. You're going to hell.
If you're a father,
according to the Christians,
and you got kids,
yeah. Oh, you're a deadbeat father. Other one.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Your reputation is smeared.
Yeah, con with con.
You are trash.
Con, sir.
And she gonna sleep with somebody else.
Yeah.
For that bag. For that
the one that was in his on her DMs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your kids are gonna look at you funny because they were expecting something.
Right.
My daughter, she ain't never gonna hear a happy birthday from me.
Most High in Christ.
Everybody else is gonna give her happy birthday. She's gonna come back and look at me. Where's mine?
Right.
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna have to look at my kid back. The fuck you want? Do the dishes.
Right.
Like what?
Right.
It's like the time when we get for the language. So just an example, just the expectations that they have based off of that narrative that's been pushed, that we're supposed to celebrate this and that. It builds friction in the family because, again, if you can't physically or financially afford that,
you're less of a man.
You're less of a man. And now, what does that push a lot of men who are proud to do? What's that push us to do?
Sell more dope to the community.
Sell more dope.
Unalive brothers and sisters.
Unalive brothers. Go steal something. Risk stealing something from somebody else who's also struggling, potentially, whether they well off or not. You risking stealing something from somebody who could unalive you. For a Tonka truck? For a Barbie doll set?
It's 50% off though. I don't want.
You got a point there. It's 50% off though. You can't miss that opportunity.
It's an 80-inch screen TV.
You can't give 50%
off. You can't get that nowhere else in the year.
That makes so much sense. You got to jump on the offer.
Black Friday. I don't want. Black Friday.
And damn, and it's messed up because we end up giving them exactly what they want for that stereotype.
Oh yeah, low key. Yeah.
And when we get sold, it's like when we get sold for cheap.
Black Friday.
It's like we doing the same thing over and over. We're not just presented on the auction block the same way.
Yeah.
But we just same thing, yeah. Just selling ourselves out.
Big TV, 50% off. Who wants to buy it?
Yeah, that's a
Look at
nice
the size
TV.
of this thing.
I'd like that for $50.
Yeah, it's in the smart TV.
Right.
Yeah. It's not just
50
LED,
bucks.
it's high definition smart TV.
$800, it's only $200.
Right.
Yeah. We need that.
We need that.
When in reality, we need less TVs in our houses. At least
Yeah,
just for a time.
I agree.
And I'm not against TVs.
I agree.
I'm not against TVs. I'm just saying, for a time, we need to abstain from certain things to get back on track.
Yeah, we gotta
Because them kids, man, they don't want to do their homework. They just want to watch a movie or a cartoon or something. Or be on their phone.
Right.
Watch a YouTube short or something or a clip.
Sir.
That's all the hell they want.
I see people in lines that they trip out, and once they start tripping out, the first thing they go to is their phone. I'm tripping. Oh, damn. Life. Reality. Phone. You know what I mean?
Damn quick.
That quick.
And what's the leadership doing about it?
Nothing.
You got your religious leaders, you got your community leaders, supposedly, your political leaders, gathering together, rubbing elbows at them fancy little get-togethers and parties. But you're on the public forums. Which is why it's cool for us to go to those public meetings.
Yeah.
It's good to see what they're actually presenting so that we can say that we heard it from the horse's mouth. And we're not just seeing it second or third hand from a website or from somebody else's narrative and their spin on what may have been presented at those meetings. It's good for us to be there physically so that we can actually hear it from them and get the minutes and get the notes. What actually gets done at those meetings as a result of the people's participation?
I say it doesn't really matter if we're not being consistent after our presence being met there.
That's an important.
It don't mean nothing. We can show ourselves, make ourselves look good all day long, but if we ain't being consistent, it's pointless.
Consistency. That's a big point. That's a huge point of it. Because you might see some people there every once in a while, and again, really having no effect. Because again, they don't control the actual like the actions that get taken. You can have a community member, but they're not the alderman. They're not like the mayor, the governor, the senate, whatever the hell. They're not a person in charge that can actually make changes to the laws or standards. Community activists kind of almost don't mean shit. Just like the vote, like the vote for the president, it's got to go through the electoral college first. No matter what the popular or unpopular vote is, it's got to go through a different filter first before it actually gets passed. So you can have a stance on the conditions of your people and the laws that are in place and try to make a motion to change that, but it's not gonna do nothing. Like we ain't got the power like that. Just like on a reservation, you got the board meetings are like bare. They're like ain't nobody there. Don't nobody get involved with that really. And their influence is the money. Their influence is the money to keep things moving, to keep that standard of living that they're already comfortable with alive. Don't nobody want no friction. Don't nobody want to change it because that's going to take away the government programs, EBT cards, and WIC programs. If we cause any type of turbulence to that system, they're going to take that away from us. And then we're going to be further in debt and less able to provide for our families and loved ones. When, again, in reality, we've got the skill sets to do that for each other. But we're also dependent on somebody else's system. Not like majority-wise, as a nation of people.
Right.
We are dependent on our oppressor system, which is what the scriptures say about in want of all things. We are in want of all things to these devils. So despite the businesses that we are capable of establishing and the skill sets that we have that we could put to use, if we don't get their approval, their permission to do certain things on paper, on record, because we got to pay taxes, we got to pay all these for the permits, for the licensing, insurances. We got to pay for all this stuff in order to provide for each other.
And if we get late, I don't want late fees.
Shit. The late fees. Child support. Library fees. Dog, if my mother, for example, we had, and this was me and my brother's fault. We had rented some movies from the library, some VHS tapes. I think we lost them, or we just misplaced them and just kind of forgot about it and never told our mom that it needs to get returned. And she ended up getting pulled over. There was a warrant for her arrest because of VHS movies from the library.
Good night, I don't want.
That's crazy. That blew my mind. I could not believe that they would take it that far. And that's exactly what they did.
You're going to jail.
You're going to jail. They pulled her over. There was a warrant for her arrest for a VHS tape. Now, of course, at the time that was like the system used. You know, VHS. We weren't even into the Blu-ray and DVD then. It was VHS. So that was coveted from the library. That was free. Just we were overdue, and they never got that back. They put a warrant out for her arrest. They're like, this is crazy. That's the mentality of the people of this the system of the people that we live in.
That's right.
That's the so-called devil that the Bible speaks.
Damn right.
That we live in under. So we have to move a certain way. In the UPK under Commanding General Yana, under the Most High in Christ, we have a game plan in place of how to interact with each other to lessen that friction between each other. And it sounds like such a dangerous thing because all these devils want to think that all we're going to do is try to fight them physically. I'm going to fight them by telling my brothers and sisters to get off drugs.
Right.
That's our best weapon to get sober. To get my sisters off the stripper pole. Mm-hmm. That's what I want. I don't want to curb stomp no one.
Concert.
I want to curb stomp somebody. But we ain't gonna go to those extremes. We ain't gotta go to them extremes. I want my people off the corner. I want us off of drugs.
Right.
I want us in successful rehab facilities. I don't want us having a go broke with the insurance policies that, again, our oppressors had established. Again, insurance companies predominantly from the slave trade era that we are hemorrhaging money out to. I don't want us to have to be dependent and reliant on them for us to be sober and clean and to function better and cleaner and smoother as a community, as a family. That's our best weapon. Brotherhood and sisterhood is our best weapon against these devils. In these times, in the future times, in the past times. It's been proven too. It's been proven that unity amongst Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians is healthier for our communities and destroys our oppressors' economy and way of life. They depend on us being criminals. They depend on you smoking Newport Hundreds and Mavericks. That's another big one in Milwaukee and Wisconsin. Mavericks. They depend on you smoking menthol in general. Mm-hmm. They depend on you smoking Black and Mounds. They depend on you smoking backwoods. Good?
Slakia. They depend on doing all that because we lack brotherhood, sisterhood, fatherhood, motherhood. Right. That's why they depend on it.
So their way of life is by force. That's their way of life. That's how they get their job done. Our way of life, inherently through the Bible, is community. Is us meshing together. Is us working with each other. So much so to the point that we let these devils, cross that border. They are illegal immigrants.
Right.
We let some illegal immigrants mess us up. And then we end up treating each other the same way that they treat us. We end up hating each other the same way that we love our oppressor. I want y'all to think about that too. That analogy. We hate each other the same way that we love our oppressor. Take that into consideration when Christmas comes up.
Slocky, sir, can you say that one more time?
We hate each other. We hate each other the same way that we love our oppressors. We hate each other. We treat each other with hatred the same way that we give our love to our oppressors, the same people that hate us. We hate each other the same way that we love them. Think about that. House niggas. We hate each other the same way that we love them. Unnecessary. Weird. Unrealistic. Unnatural. That's another way to put it. Unnatural. We have an unnatural hate for each other, and we have an unnatural love for our oppressors. Every Friday, we're going to be doing these LASHAWAN QADASH classes, man. Every Saturday, we're going to be holding a Sabbath service. Every Thursday, a scripture breakdown with General Muhammad. Every Wednesday is a law class. In Milwaukee, you can find that with Officer Kala. Every Tuesday is the Brotherhood class. You can find that with Officer Kananya. Every Monday is going to be the history class. And you can find that with Officer Tabaganas. All across the nation, too. In different time zones. So in the Midwest, so LASHAWAN QADASH, we're going to be doing this. Aim for 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. The other classes, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, until further notice. But we got these classes, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Canada to South America, Central America, Caribbean islands to the UK. And it's important to talk about these uncomfortable topics, these things that make people's skin crawl, that make it that make it necessary for y'all to have to face us. Because either you're gonna agree with us and you can get on board, or you're gonna try to battle us, or maybe you'll just be a pansy and make a snide comment online and then disappear after the response, which is fine too. That's your nature anyway. You a coward. Otherwise, you can always tune into classes, engage with us live during the classes. Call it Across the Line Radio every Thursday. If you go to crossthelineradio@gmail.com, if you wanted to set up some formal debate or present your point or your opinion, you can always set up something to get a little block at a time, so you can present your information and get shut down in an orderly fashion. You got options. The thing is that we ain't gonna budge, and we can't budge, and the people need that wall, that hedge, that defense around them, because everybody else is failing us. All your community leaders, all your community activists, all of your politicians, they're gonna negotiate. They're gonna give up points of interest that would benefit the people, so that they can just meet some bottom line with somebody else. They're gonna give up points of interest that would secure our future for somebody else's considerations, so that we're not impeding on their comfortability. Giving us some freedoms doesn't mean that they gotta be less free. Doesn't mean that they gotta have a poor quality of life. It just means that we get to have a better quality of life. but they take that as a threat. Our families being happy, our families being together, the father, the mother, the children, a nuclear family, a nuclear household is a threat from the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian community to these devils.
That's right.
That is a direct threat to them, because they don't treat them Elamites, so-called East Indians, like that. They let their family structure reign and thrive and flourish. They don't treat Arabs like that. You're gonna see some how would I say it? Individuals who hold stances against like Palestine or Arabs, because they're gonna associate them like with the Taliban or ISIS or Al Qaeda, and they're gonna make racially charged remarks against them as a people. But as a nation, America don't deny them. Other nations don't deny them.
That's right.
They all have a government behind them. They all have a military behind them to protect them and to give a voice to them if they were to be oppressed.
Right.
We don't. So-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, we don't. We would have to turn to our oppressors for protection.
Good night.
And what incentive do they got to protect us? What incentive do they got to give us, more freedoms, more resources to provide for each other, provide for one another, provide for ourselves, to be self-sufficient? What prerogative do they have? There's no value to them of us being independent.
Right.
Unless we are subjugated under them still. Because we can be independent. You still got to pay them taxes. You still got to pay all them permits, the insurances, all them costs. And then you still have to step to their tune.
Mm-hmm. You're
expected to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas and birthdays and Valentine's and New Year's.
Right.
That's expected of you.
Right.
Because imagine if you didn't.
Concert. And if I may, if they don't get the expectations from you, there's almost force down your throat.
Right.
Like I'm trying to get grocery shopping and everything was closed. You know what I mean? So I was like, God damn, I totally forgot it was Thanksgiving. I have to bow down.
Right.
And wait till Thanksgiving is over. So I get my grocery shopping the next day. You know what I mean? So yeah, I feel that.
And if somebody were to say Thanksgiving or Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Holidays, you don't say that shit back.
Yeah, it's a problem. What? What are you on?
For what? Some words that you didn't want to repeat back to them. The same way, like if you don't stand and salute for the flag during the national anthem at a sports game. Same thing. I'm waiting to go to a sports event. I'm looking for an occasion to not salute the flag.
Right.
In public, in front of all them rednecks. I'm looking for that. But it's something that, again, so we're lacking leadership in our communities. And their focus is, it's not our culture. It's not, this is a blank board right now. We fill this up every day, every class, every session, every Sabbath service. The events that we got going on. The lessons that we're teaching, the scriptures that we're breaking down. That's just Milwaukee. We've got how many other cities and states involved in this too, doing the same thing. When we were doing a clothing drive on the Menominee Reservation, they was doing a clothing drive somewhere else too. They was doing a clothing drive in Haiti as well, in the Caribbean islands. It's not just us in Milwaukee. The work doesn't just end after class. We keep it moving together because we are the only organization working to rebuild a nation. Everybody else is just focused on Old Testament or New Testament, fringes on your T-shirts or tassels. It gets weird. The arguments get redundant after a while. We're going to be here regardless, and everybody else is going to have to cross our paths. We are the ISUPk, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Established in 1969, 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, led by Commanding General Yana. We are not affiliated with any other organization. If you want to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black. That means your boots, your pants, your headband, and or shirt. With that, listen, we're going to cut this class out. We're going to see you next week. LASHAWAN QADASH class. Shalom, Israel. Shalom.